Thank you so much. Some of my team members are here. There's Saket Yani, the DOP of and co-producer. Samyak Singh, my executive producer, and also the songs that you heard in the film included this last song, composed by him.
Thank you, Harshad. In my humble opinion, this is probably one of the best written first films I have seen in a long time. It's just really well. I'll start, to introduce myself. I'm Devashish Makhija. I'm a filmmaker as well. And it's an honor to be talking to you guys. I'm so glad I hadn't seen this film before and I'm just reacting to it. It's my first reaction, my questions to you. So, often in films that try to make a political statement or are trying to explore a personal politic, there is a distinction in the film between the personal and the political, or there is no personal, there is political and you can smell the personal, or it gets really personal and the political takes a back seat. I saw your personal and your political holding hands and walking right through the film. I've not seen that either for a very long time. What brought you to this point and how did you find this inside you to be able to make it as personal as it was political? How personal is it? Maybe it's me reading into it, I don't know, but I'm reacting and I think I could smell a very personal impulse and an intent with this film. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is personal because it's sort of like it's a reaction to the kind of polarization that I have seen with my friends. So basically this film is sort of like a love letter to my friend who I've had, political differences with. And this is my way of trying to say, I mean, we've had agreements, politics, as you said, yes, the politics and personal kept, coming foreground, background, just as it was with me and my friend. Sometimes politics took, backseat in our relationship, but sometimes it was out there and it could just ruin our relationship.
So, and the fact that you cast yourself and made it that much more personal, was that intended? Did you have that in mind while you were writing it, when you conceived the film, or did that come as a natural offshoot of the fact that it was so personal and it was a love letter to your friend? Because being able to cast yourself in a film like this and bring in the perspective of your friend as empathetically might have been challenging. So tell us about that.
Yes, I mean, Sachin is my character. So again, going back to the conversation about how we saw, how we had opposing political ideologies. I was somebody like Sachin who had very strong opinions. This thing, how can you support this guy? How can you do this? How can you do that? Constantly questioning somebody and not really trying to understand where he comes from. So that was me, and I realized that. So so that was definitely personal. Sachin's character was personal, but I didn't want to play that character because I was directing the film also. Like, it's not get into this thing and I'll just concentrate on directing it. But we couldn't find anyone, and we took few auditions and all that, but didn't find anyone. And also during this time, what was happening is that Raghu was cast in the film, and I was rehearsing scenes with him. And what happened was during the rehearsal, and Raghu this is the first film. He's a software engineer. So we had that chemistry. We developed friendship during rehearsal, and we had that chemistry. So I was already, like, he sort of practiced with me as Sachin. So that became very common. So I thought, okay, if he's practicing with me and if this is going good, I should play the character. And also another reason I could save money by not, small budget film.
But you also must have had the confidence that you'll pull it off because it's a great performance. You've not
Thank
gone
you.
like 1 inch over like most actors who directors who cast themselves do, famous directors who cast themselves. Also, the one thing that I find very interesting, which I have been incapable of doing as a filmmaker, and I found that inspiring, is that there is reactionary rage on both sides. Of course, with Raghu, you have given history. You've given a lot of these milestones to leading up to why he took the path that he did. But with your character, you've sort of assumed, you've not given milestones, but you've assumed that this person from within is this kind of person, so he would react this way. But they're both reactionary. They're both raging. They're both capable of setting fire to something. Yet there is an absence of judgment. There is an attempt to have dialogue on both sides. There is regret, and there is a repercussion to those decisions. So I want to know, what was it conscious? Did you work on trying to create that sense of dialogue within the film? Are you interested as a filmmaker to have dialogue with the opposite side? Because I find that to be the only way forward in this difficult climate that we live in. I want to know your views on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I am ready to have dialogue with somebody like Raghu, if Sachin is ready to have dialogue with somebody like Raghu, then Raghu wouldn't have fallen in this kind of trap. You know, the fact that Raghu was alone, insecure at a certain moment, and Parveen wasn't around. Sachin was somebody with such strong opinions that Raghu can't really have a dialogue with, and he must have felt alone, and somebody else comes and holds his hand and says ki you're very valuable to us, and Raghu will go there. So that was always the idea, that that the characters and because this film focuses mainly on Raghu's character, so we get deeply into that, and I mean, we try to get into Sachin and Parveen's character also, but then we had to edit out some scenes that would.
And that works because Raghu's character is someone that, at least I had trouble relating to, but because you gave him such a strong reasoning to become what he became, the film just became balanced.
Yeah.
Because the politics of the film is very clear. Yet there is balance in the way you've sketched out his character.
Yeah, like if somebody like Raghu, I'll meet him, and if I say he puts out something on like a Facebook post, if I go on Facebook and like, you don't understand this, you are that, it's just gonna make the divide more.
You're pushing him away.
Yeah, and the more I do that, the more stronger his beliefs are going to be. But if I sit with him and have a dialogue, if I sit with him and have a conversation about all this, and then probably things might start going towards better, basically.
That's really beautiful, to take the responsibility of the creation of the monster, which you actually don't have a hand in creating, but you're taking responsibility, something that I wish this whole country could. Can we clap for that? And the last question for you, I found the screenplay spectacular. It's no surprise that you won Best Screenplay at the New York Indian Film Festival. The choice of the non-linear screenplay, which actually traces the repercussion. It's like a repercussive beats in the story. Did that come right in the beginning, or you found it as you went along?
No, it was right from the scripting stage. The point of making this film for me was not to say what are the consequences of bigotry. We all know that. I mean, like, I could just write a tweet about it, like, yes, all that. But the fact to, why does it happen? Why would this? It's sort of like an investigation into that. Let's try and understand why this happens. And I wanted to leave the audience with that story rather than the story of something Raghu did and he posted that video, and so as a result this consequence happened. That is, but I wanted to the audience to leave them with this thought, that where Raghu comes from.
I'll open it up. Anyone?
Hello.
Hold it closer to you.
हेलो मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि आपकी फिल्म में स्टेट वाइज पॉलिटिक्स थी और ओपनिंग में एनएफटीसी का नाम था। अगर पॉलिटिक्स अगर आती है तो क्या कोई दिक्कत होती है फिल्म को बनने में या इधर तक आने में, और क्या या मतलब पॉलिटिक्स कितना प्ले करती है पॉलिटिकल पार्टी या पावर, या अगर स्टेट की जगह अगर ये सेंटर के अपोज होती तो क्या दिक्कत आती?
मेरे लिए तो थोड़ा बहुत अर्ली है ये आंसर करना. आई एम श्योर देवाशीष कैन टेल यू better because he's made political films and he's like he can answer you, मतलब वो बता सकते हैं आपको. बट मुझे पता नहीं, मतलब ये अभी पहली फिल्म है. हाँ, एनएफडीसी ने तो एनएफडीसी का वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस लैब है, सो वो एक थोड़ी सेपरेट एंटिटी है. गवर्नमेंट रन ही है, बट द पीपल हु रन इट आर अ सेपरेट एंटिटी एंड दे do support films that are challenging and but yes, क्या अभी ट्रबल मैं फेस करूंगा इससे अभी मुझे नहीं पता है. फिल्म बिकेगी नहीं बिकेगी मुझे नहीं मालूम है अभी तक, तो देखेंगे.
एक मेरे को इसके बारे में ज़्यादा पता नहीं है, बट एक ये था ना कि ब्रॉडकास्टिंग में कोई एक गवर्नमेंट आना था कि अगर गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड करेगी सर्टिफिकेट देना, ये चीज़
ये फिल्म सर्टिफिकेशन तक पहुंची नहीं है.
हाँ.
तो आईएमडी मिनिस्ट्री सर्टिफिकेशन भी कंट्रोल करती है, एनएफडीसी को भी कंट्रोल करती है. तो आपका सवाल जायज़ है, बट लाइक ही सेड, ये हर बॉडी में ना कुछ लोग हैं जो इंडिपेंडेंट सिनेमा, एक फ्री वॉइस, एक आर्टिस्टिक वॉइस, एक क्वेश्चनिंग वॉइस के लिए लड़ती हैं. तो आखिरी पड़ाव है सेंसर. जैसे मेरी फिल्में भी जोरम जो आप देखो यहाँ डिफ में, वो लास्ट ईयर फिल्म बाज़ार में थी. फिल्म बाज़ार एनएफडीसी रन करती है, तो वहाँ हमको सराहा गया. बट अभी सेंसर को मेरी फिल्म गई है अब, और सारा एक्सक्यूज माई फ्रेंच चुतियापा अभी शुरू होने वाला है. तो इट्स ट्रिकी. तो इसके चैलेंजेस अभी आगे हैं. अब तक यहाँ तक तो पहुँच गए हर्षद, बट आगे चैलेंजेस होंगे.
हाँ, जैसे वो एक जैसे चैलेंज, एक शॉट है फिल्म में, वो स्टेडियम पे बैठा है एंड यहाँ फ्लैग्स है,
बीजेपी के फ्लैग्स.
हाँ, तो वो वैसे इंटेंशनल नहीं था.
दिख रहा है.
मैंने डिसाइड किया था वहाँ पे शूट करने
ये
का.
एग्जैक्टली यही बोलना सेंसर बोर्ड को, इंटेंशन नहीं था.
मैंने डिसाइड किया था वहाँ शूट करना, पर
है क्या
ये पावर है मतलब. तो हम लोगों ने अपना शेड्यूल सेट किया था, वी आर ऑन टाइट बजट, कुछ चेंज नहीं कर सकते. बट तभी उन लोगों ने रैली करने का डिसीजन ले लिया और फिर वहाँ पे चेयर लगा दिए, फ्लैग लगा दिए. मैंने सोचा अच्छा है, इधर ऐसे ही ले लेते शॉट, ले लिया मैंने.
That did something, that created a saffron atmosphere, and we
Yeah.
got a sense of where the story is going to go. We already had that, but an atmosphere created हुआ.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing to add is that अभी 6 महीने में जो elections है और कर्नाटका बीजेपी चाहती है वापस, तो this film will face trouble. So the fact that he's made a brave film, now the battle is not only half won. आपकी आधी battle बाकी है. To dig your heels in, find the right time, find the right opportunities to get this out, and not lose hope. Because also it's a crowd-funded film. You have a lot of people who have backed you on this film. So it's been a long journey till now. It's going to be a long journey ahead. Talk about the crowdfunding a little.
Yeah, I mean, so when we wrote it and we wanted to make it, we went to a few producers. For I don't know, for whatever reasons, people didn't want to make it. Maybe that reason only. So they didn't want to make it. So, and I was really eager to tell this story. Then so what we did, like I said, ki, okay, what if I go the crowdfunding way? And this was, I mean, crowdfunding is something that was really something that I had heard about, that it's working. Lucia is a film that I was really, like inspired by. Oh, this film was crowdfunded.
Pawan Kumar.
Yes, Pawan Kumar's Lucia. So I really wanted to do that in the same space. So that's what we did. We were like, okay, let's see how much money we can raise in crowdfunding and shoot the film according to that budget. And so that means that we'll have to shoot for lesser days. That means we have to, compromise on some production quality.
Don't call it compromise. The word is recalibration.
Yeah.
You make it with what you have.
Yeah.
I never use the word compromise.
Right. So recalibrated how we do this, and we put out a pitch video, and we started, so obviously then family, friends of friends, and all that. The video got shared, and we raised some funds, raised enough to shoot for 16 days and finish the shoot in that. And so we did that and made a rough edit. And then we hope that from here we can use this rough cut to show around to people. And let's see if we can raise the rest of the post-production money. That's when I met Vinay Mishra of Hamara movie. I showed him the film. He really liked it, and he's like, okay, I'll help you finish the film. And that's how the film got over then in the end.
So you know what, just adding to that, why I brought it up is that what crowdfunding does, and things like crowdfunding, is that helps you create audiences. A film like this, you make it alone and you put it out cold. To get people to come and rally around your film is very hard. There's a filmmaker called Fateh Akim. Now, वो musician भी है, वो underground musician है. So he has a huge underground music. His music has a huge following. The day he goes and does a gig and his film's ready, he says, "मेरी film भी है, आकर देख लेना." He has a audience that helps him raise funding, that helps him get viewership. They talk friends and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends. That audience starts expanding. So ये एक independent filmmaker पे responsibility भी है कि आप अपना audience set बनाएं and don't expect the world to come do charity for you. And that is something you are doing. So I found that very empowering.
Yeah, and the film is crowdfunded. The film talks about the Kannada and the Marathi issue, but the film is crowdfunded by both Kannadigas and Marathis.
Excellent. Did your friend who's based on also put money in the film?
Yeah, Raghu is not based on one person.
Achha.
I'd say like 2-3 of
They put money in the film?
Yes.
It's already a victory.
I really appreciate the trueness with which you portrayed the character. Sure, it came straight from your heart. My one straight question is, how much of research you did? Did you do? And did, by any chance, you let any imagination to run through the course of the film?
Because it's a personal film, a lot of all these characters come from my friends who have grown up with, their characteristic, their idea, their worldview. It all comes from there, all the personal stuff. The politics, yes, research. I've grown up in Belgaum, so I've seen this. I'm a Maharashtrian, and I have seen other Maharashtrians really fighting for this cause. And I used to always wonder, why is it that they so strongly want this? What is it that makes them fight for this so much? So that question was always there, and I've seen this, growing up, this issue. Regarding fictionalizing things, like Raghu, where he works, this thing is a little bit of an exaggerated fiction, but it's not something completely exaggerated, because whatever is happening in the rest of the country, I'm just portraying it in Belgaum. So basically, it's kind of my cautionary tale for Belgaum, that we might go that way, where the rest of the country has gone with this divide.
Hi, congratulations. This was the film of the festival. So for me so far, because you have the other ones which have been, they've received a lot of billing and notoriety everywhere. But this was a stunning film. I just wanted to point out, outside of privilege, caste, every other element that you've also covered, I loved the character of Pari as well. We were talking about, were these characters fully realized? I think she was the person who held the two as well, right? She tries to negotiate peace with them in very simple, nuanced ways, when she points out that, I do understand why he proposed to me in a way that you wouldn't understand. So those little touches also for me and when I think he makes fun of his friend at some point about the shop, again, you can see her face change because she realizes. So I think everything, the attention to detail, just the acting, the language, the vernacular of it was just so enjoyable, thoroughly entertaining besides being such an important film, and I really hope it goes everywhere. So I will definitely be rallying around this film. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Actually, this brings me to something I didn't bring up. The fact that the conflict, man's conflict ever since is over land. But in the modern world, the conflict is almost always language driven. And Visarane is the last film where I saw it, was Telugu and Tamil. And here the language conflict is so seamless after a point. I didn't even need to read that now the subtitle is telling me that it's Marathi. I felt it. I knew who was feeling what and why they're feeling it. I thought only Visarane before this had done this really beautifully.
Yeah.
You quenched my thirst. मैं festival नहा लिया.
Thank you.
Is it a feasibility, whatever your journey was, like from the start, could you come with a talk about it? Is it a feasibility? Even as the filmmakers along.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
Kind of the idea
Right.
of exploring inside you.
Yeah.
From your finishing.
Yeah, it would be like I would try to put it down somewhere because it was an interesting journey for us also. We sort of grew up while making this film. I wrote this in 2017, went for crowdfunding in 2018, shot in 2019. Pandemic happened. We sat with a rough cut with all uncertainty what will happen, and eventually, also God, that gave us a chance to step back and look at the film, think about certain things. So it was sort of like a film school only for all of us. In fact, everyone except for Donna, who plays Parveen, for everyone this was the first film. Everyone who's worked on this film, the first film.
And you were the EP as well on the film.
Yeah.
I want your number.
He just literally, so I think for me the best part was how everyone wanted to do something, and then he was like, so I used to be a producer in a news channel, and so you have to be really strict while doing live news as a producer. So he said, can you do this on the set? It's like, what will I have to do? It's like, just like, be like, just like tell everyone to come on time, just handle things. So I think for me that was the great part about Followers, is that everyone sort of stepped up and said, yes, we really want to do it, so we'll do it. And so that really happened on this film, which was like great. We all, as he said, it was our film school. We just like really stepped up and started to do things somehow. So yeah.
Would you what was going between you, like to and fro, the DOP, and like what were your instructions and like how you proceed?
Like how Harshad and I jammed and came up with a visual language.
Yeah.
And is it your first film as well?
Yes. So I know Harshad since 2009. We were roommates in college. So
Which college? What were you all studying?
Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. We did like our mass comm. So it was not a film school. We did a basic media course, and this film, in a way, was a film school because there were a lot of challenges, and we had to calibrate a lot. And so Harsh and I, we sat together and we came up with a visual language of, I don't know if you noticed it, but whenever Raghu is doing something which he should not, we try to box him in a corner. Also when he's not feeling confident, when he's like insecure, when he's questioned about his thoughts, especially after that neutron-proton scene, Terrace ke upar. Yeah. So we try to box him in a corner. And overall texture of the film, we both thought about what should be the texture, and like we just went with it. Yeah.
And I caught some subtle things, I might be wrong, but you know, when the father and the son are carrying the board on the scooter, and the way it tracks and reveals the two, there's a divide between the two. They reach home, and you use the wall to divide the two. So I got a sense this man doesn't want that destiny. So there is, I could see very conscious framing and camera movement choices, which again is a rarity for a first film. So that your tuning was very evident.
Yeah, since I know Harshad very well, when I read his script, I kind of know what goes in his head, and I try to do justice to like what is written on the page. So it's just that I think it's just the chemistry between us that works. Yeah.
Anybody else? I think one last question. Okay, two last questions. One here. Okay, three last questions. Do we have time for three last questions?
Yeah.
No, you're not part of the three. You didn't raise your hand.
I raised my hand.
There's one.
But
two,
I'm going to
three.
state my question.
Okay, four last questions.
So I come from media background, and I would say probably I would like to call you as a doctor, because the kind of events which are happening in the world, I think this film has spoken to a larger audience, I would say, because as a doctor, I would say, not a director, you prevented a lot of people from an illness which is spreading right across. And my question to you is that were there any psychological battles you faced while you were writing it, or if there were any, and if there was fear while writing or while narrating, how did you overcome it?
Yes, there was a battle. There was a battle with myself as to am I really able to understand this person properly? Am I justifying this kind of bigotry, or am I trying to understand it? This battle I was constantly fighting. I didn't want to justify bigotry. I didn't want to, I wanted to just understand. So this, and that constantly, that battle in my head was going on. Also, like if I'm telling a story of Raghu, somebody like Raghu, am I, so because I'm telling this story from Sachin's point of view. So have I gone deep enough to understand, Raghu's psyche? Or am I just being a little superficial and just like, हाँ ये ऐसा होगा, and then, that's why it is. So this was there constantly. I was trying to question myself while writing. And during this time, obviously, I was also spending so much time with my friends and all that. So, in a way, it was thoda organic that I would know Raghu's story, because it is my friend's story ultimately. So, I would know him very, I'll know him personally. So, but this battle was constantly there, and especially, like somebody would say, like, are you sympathizing with a troll? That question would come up, but I was not. I was just trying to understand and keeping a distance from it, trying to have an objective point of view.
Just picking on something he asked, the fear. Were you feeling fear? Like what happened to Sachin? The two people on a bike come and ram his head with a brick. Now that's could be a proxy for you. So was that fear there? Is that fear there, that there could be that kind of a reaction to your film, that it harms you? Because we are living in those times.
Yeah, I mean that possibility is there. Because I'm a Maharashtrian from Belgaum, and I'm making this film which talks about the Belgaum issue. So I might, on the surface of it, the Kannadigas might be very pissed off about it. So there are certain fringe groups in Karnataka as well which can get really pissed off about it, that this film should not happen because it's bringing out the Marathi cause. But this can also piss off the Marathi fringe group.
You get 2 bricks on your head.
Yeah.
So does that make you afraid?
So I don't know. So, but I just wanted to say what I wanted to say, and I hope I have, I have to be a little more daring to really tell this story of Raghu, and yes, I'll face some issue here and there, but I don't know how much of that will be a, like, we'll know, I mean, later on. Brick and all, yeah, maybe.
But like I said earlier also, what is beautiful about this film is that yes, there is fear and there is rage, but there is a lot of empathy. And that leads to dialogue, and that really is the only way forward. And this film gives us that.
It doesn't seem like your first time attempt. It's so beautifully done, so well scripted, so well made. So my question to you is, did you have an end goal while you were thinking of making this movie, and while it was done before showcasing it, did you think you've done some justice to whatever you were thinking? It has turned out the way you wanted it?
The story wise or overall?
Of course, because you said it's your personal journey.
Yeah.
You think you've kind of achieved what you really wanted?
I think so in some ways, because before writing this film, I was like, as I told you, like, let's say, it's a story of me and my friends. And post 2014, when things were really bad between us, and mostly because of ideologies, opposing ideology. So there were times where we were not talking to each other as friends. Always some topic would come up and things would escalate. Now, after this film, for me, while making this film, and for them, after watching this film, I see there is a difference in our relationship, which is again going upwards. So I see that now again. Like we have now more, we are more understanding towards where we come from, for each other. So I think that has helped me personally. So then, if that's, I mean, maybe if that's the goal, then yeah, things are better now between me and my
film. We absolutely loved it. It's very close home for us because we come from Bangalore. And it's very funny how we walked into the film because the other friend who was sitting with us is Marathi. And we were actually going to go watch something else, but then we saw, let's explore this. So thank you so much for making this film, first of all. I have a couple of very small questions. First one being the language other than Marathi and Kannada that was used was shown as Hindi in the booklet, but it's actually Dakhni.
Yeah.
Right. So, which was it was a delight to hear that in a film so made. So thanks so much for that, because it is an existing language which lacks documentation, fortunately. And the other question I have is, when we see films that deal with anything that comes close to bigotry or fascism, for the lack of a better term, or even many plays I've seen in the theatre circle, theatre festivals and film festivals, usually the kind of audience that these films are catering to already belong to that sort of an ideology, right? There is no conflict of ideas. It almost sometimes feels like a pat on the back ki, we are raising a voice against the system or the government. But this was a breath of fresh air because there was dialogue which was very, very prevalent in the film. How do you navigate that? Because if we are making films on this, the people who already believe in this, or if you're making plays on this, for people who already believe in this, and it's mostly ends up like in a laughter or like, oh wow, that was a good set, that. But how do you navigate this space of dialogue where you take this film to people who need to see it, who want to see it, and secondly, on a personal level, I've lost a lot of friends since 2014, unfortunately, and I've always tried to build dialogue, bridge the gap. But it gets very exhausting after a point. It gets extremely exhausting. So how did you navigate that, or find the strength to, or the endurance to make sure that the bridge doesn't go away?
Yeah, I'll quickly try to answer this question. Yes, firstly, I mean, because we are from Belgaum and Dakhni had to be part of it. That is our, more like that is what we communicate in mostly, because there are 3 different languages. Every one of us communicates in all languages. By the way, just an interesting anecdote I have to say. I'm a Maharashtrian playing a Kannadiga in this, and Raghu is a Kannadiga playing Maharashtrian. So we are fluent in all these languages. And Dakhni, yes, it's sadly when we fill out festival forms, we don't find Dakhni there. So I can't, select Marathi, Kannada and Dakhni. It's like add to the Marathi, Kannada and Hindi. Yes, I didn't want to make a film where I make a political statement about the government and get validated on Twitter on this thing. No, from like, or in my echo chamber, or my circle of filmmakers and in Bombay and this thing. No, my point was to make a film for a larger audience. This is a film for a larger audience. This is like all of us, sit and watch and, maybe then have a conversation, have a dialogue. So that was the idea. I mean, I did it for personal reasons only then. I did it because I knew that I'm losing friends. I know where I was going wrong. I know where he was going wrong. So I knew that if I, like this, I mean, my way of communicating is films. And so, so I thought making a film and together watching it and then, having a dialogue around it, it was of prime importance for me. So I've done it for personal reasons.
And if I can add here, I think your question has its answer built into it. That's what makes this film special, that even I've lost a lot of friends, because at one point I get exhausted and I'm like, I need to focus on what I'm doing with my life. I can't keep, I feel like I'm beating my head against a wall. So are they. They're also feeling like they're beating their head against a wall. But here's an artist who chose to not beat his head against the wall and to bridge that gap. So that's what makes this special.
I was thinking of Parveen's character, and I kept on thinking why it had to be a Muslim woman. And also at the same time why the context of triple talaq had to be brought in, given the times we are living in. What nuance does it bring to the story of these two characters? And as you said it right, that she acts as a catalyst, but also her identity as well as her subjectivity is kind of different, right?
Yeah.
So if you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So, unfortunately, some of Parveen's part in the film got edited out because we were trying this narrative and focusing on Raghu. So, going too much into Parveen's story was digressing the story a bit. But so we had to communicate her story through dialogues, some of that. And the reason why a Muslim woman and the things that I wanted to put issues side by side. Raghu has an issue, Parveen also has an issue, and even Sachin have an issue. Now, who do you think is actually facing the most right now in this country? Parveen as a woman, as a Muslim woman, she, I mean, somebody putting her problem side by side with Raghu. Which problem has the most this thing? So I wanted to put that side by side and let people see ki matlab, like somebody like Parveen, she's not getting radicalized and joining some extremist group, even though the problems that she is facing. So and whereas Raghu somehow does. So that was the intention, that to compare the problems that these characters were facing.
So when you say that she is not joining a radical group despite the problem she's facing, but she's actually facing problems within her community. So were there scenes where she was being targeted politically, which left the film in the edit? Because then we would have gotten a sense of that, and I think we didn't, which is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, so I mean, scenes that were removed were mostly her issue with her father, who was very conservative, and so she was certain kind of a victim of her father. So those kind of things.
Her being a single mother is a very radical choice.
Yeah.
A very progressive radical choice.
Yeah.
Stupendous. I haven't seen such a brilliant film in a long time. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just have to keep saying it, but I have to.
No, it's not enough. Keep saying it, say it outside this room as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll wrap here. That was Follower. And please spread the word. This film needs as many eyeballs and support as it can get. It's not out there yet. It needs to get out there. For that, it needs to be amplified. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Devashish. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.